A roux is a base and a thickener for sauces, and it's roux not like in Kanga, but in R-O-U-X, roux. A lot of recipes that you make are going to have you make a roux, but they won't necessarily call it that. What it is a combination of flour and fat, and that's cooked over low heat, typically stirring. And there are three kinds of roux. There's a white roux, a blonde roux, and a dark brown roux, and the color is all dependent on how long you cook it. So for a white roux and a blonde roux, we typically use butter and flour, and in equal parts. Those are cooked slowly over low heat using a little sauce whisk or any kind of whisk to keep it all incorporated and not so it doesn't burn. A dark brown roux is used with animal fat instead of butter and flour, again in equal parts, or you can use oil. And this is used in a lot of the Cajun and Creole dishes and is absolutely essential in gumbo. You need a lot of patience when making a dark brown roux because it can take up to an hour to get to the right color without burning. So let's go to the stove and cook these different kinds of roux. So for your white and blonde roux, we want to cook it over a low temperature, low flame. I'm going to use equal parts butter. This is 3 tablespoons. I like to melt my butter first and get it nice and frothy before I add the flour. So I'm using a sauce whisk, and the sauce whisk is nice and flat. It really allows you to get into all the corners of the pan. You can use a regular whisk if you don't have a sauce whisk. Once the butter melts and it starts to get a little bubbly around the edges, I'm going to add the flour. This is 3 tablespoons of flour to go with my 3 tablespoons of butter. I'm just going to stir it nicely to incorporate. Now you need to always cook your flour when you're thickening a sauce by using a roux. Otherwise you'll get a very raw, floury taste in your sauce and it'll ruin the flavor. So just give it a nice stir and make sure you keep stirring all across the bottom so it doesn't burn. It's going to get nice and frothy and thick. So for the white roux, you want to cook it just until the flour is done. It's pretty close. It's really just about 2 minutes. A blonde roux goes just one step further than a white roux as far as the cooking time. The flour and the butter will both start to brown a little bit on the blonde roux. This adds a little richness of flavor, but it also makes your sauce a little bit darker. So typically a blonde roux might be used maybe in a gravy, where a white roux would be used more in a white sauce or a bechamel sauce, maybe for your au gratin potatoes, for example. So whatever kind of sauce you make with your roux, if you find that there are a few flour lumps in there, a fine mesh sieve can be your best friend. Just strain the sauce through here before you serve it. Bon appetit!